transformation. Let's tap into your own authentic genius and live the life you desire.
You are now listening to
Join Dr. Rademaker for an enlightened conversation about our brain intelligence, our body intelligence, and our energy intelligence. And now, here's your host, Dr. Bart Rademaker.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. And, what would life be like if there was no adversity? And actually, that's the topic for today. Because when you think about it, if we had our brothers, if that's how you say it properly, if you really had life the way that you want it to be, it'd probably be really boring because nothing strange or weird or adverse would actually happen in your life. And I think adversity is an interesting concept because as much as we don't like it, it causes us to grow. And so I want to talk about adversity today. And what's funny for me, and as I've been doing this for quite some time, and really more from the perspective of just getting the word out there, because I think it's really important. So I've done this for about 3 years, and I haven't really grown it as much as I wanted to, only because I'm really focused on a lot of other things. But this year is actually really going to be different. And I may have said that before, I don't know. But the point of the matter is that you've got to make choices in life. And everything is a choice. And it really begins with the question, who am I? Who are you? And I was fascinated by, this question many, many years ago when I thought I was really very much on that path of, evolution. Being a doctor, being a surgeon, training for so many years, reading the Greek philosophers, and really finding out that I didn't know who I was. And where is that most evident in our life? Adversity, when things are happening the way that we don't want them to happen. And so if we begin to dissect diversity, and let's put aside that there is the advantage, there's the benefit of the adversity, because as I mentioned earlier, we must grow in this world. We must be challenged. Interesting enough, when people are talking about diversity in this country, or the wish to not have that, the very essence of diversity is really what also allows us to expand and to grow. So diversity and adversity, important elements for all of us to be able to expand our lives. Because it's my belief, and not just my belief, by the way, but it's my belief that by being challenged, by feeling that stress, you're going to expand. But then the question is, how much is too much? And so some of the things today that we're going to be talking about is illustrating, what's that process that we either consciously or unconsciously tap into that causes us, to be stressed, overwhelmed, and potentially just, pack it in and say, I'm done, or really rise to the challenge and overcome it and change your life, transform your life, and in that process, transform the lives of many other people. So before I continue, I just want to do a quick check on everything, making sure that everything's live here. Yes, it is. So the fun part about me is that I purposely, I think it's unconscious or maybe it's my own laziness, am encumbered with many adversities, really because I take a lot on my plate. And just like today, the last day and a half, in fact, working probably 16 hours, by noon, actually, was it yesterday? Yesterday, by noon, I'd already put in 8 hours worth of work, and I'm loving it. So I pretty much got up to about 16 hours and was totally energized to do even more. And so what does that mean? It means that I'm doing a lot of things, but the question is, is it being effective? Am I being true to myself? And so these are some of the things that we're also going to talk about. So let me check my notes here. And when we look at adversity, the first thing that we have to ask ourselves, what are we focusing on? What does it mean and what are we going to do? And so before that, a step actually happens before that. When it comes to focus, what's that emotional state? Well, let me backtrack for 1 second, because the point of the matter is this. With adversity, knowing that it's going to be helpful on the one hand, you have to overcome it. And so what is that process like for you? What's it going to be like for you? Is it going to be a process that really helps you in the best possible way? Or is it a struggle? Or is it leading to, the end of things? So getting to that focus, what's your emotional state? So that's a choice. And all of this is about choices. So whatever emotional state you're in, you're going to filter whatever situation is out there based on that emotion. If you're happy in that moment, then guess what? Most things will just kind of, rub off. I mean, they'll just go away. But if you're in a bad state, and it's going to stick to you like Velcro. And so that's a choice. In any given situation, ask yourself, okay, what is my emotional state? What is it that I want it to be in this moment? So another thing that we have to look at is, what is actually your physical state? Clearly, many of us don't manage our physical state well enough. We eat the wrong things, we don't sleep right, or we don't sleep well. We have a lack of physical activity. And I'm very much a victim of that yesterday, is that I worked all day because I was having an adverse moment because the software program and the hardware programs the hardware was not cooperating with me. And part of it was my own ignorance. Something else that we have to look at. In the lack of clarity in the moment that's causing you the stress. So when the moment outside of us, when the situation outside of us is causing us to feel stressed, so this is an adversity moment, if you will, it's really about the meaning that we give something. So whatever it is that we're focusing on, again, if we're in a great mood, we're going to focus on what's great. If we're in a bad mood, we're going to focus on what's not great. But then also the meaning of that. And here's what's important, because based on your beliefs, based on your values, the priority of your values, you're also going to decide, what something actually means. So what something means can cause an emotion that's negative for you, or can actually cause an emotion that's positive for you. And again, that's also based on your experiences, which also lead to your beliefs and also to your values. Changing your experiences are also going to change your beliefs and your values. So based on past experience, how did this situation that's recurring perhaps, or a situation that's quite similar to this, how is that past experience? But here's an important part, is what's your role in all of this? How did you manage that past situation so that you got perhaps the results that you want, or perhaps you didn't get the results that you wanted? And what is it that you then make that to mean? So once again, it's your emotional state, it's your physical state, right? Is your body healthy? Is it able to stand the stress? And then your beliefs and your values and your experiences. Because all of that is going to affect how you're going to manage the next moments. So focusing and meaning, it's all about a choice. But it's also your level of, as we call it, consciousness. Where are you as far as the way that you choose to think? What's the main, software that you're utilizing in your head? And again, all of this has to do with two things. The downloads that you got from when you were very young, and stacked up with validation or reaffirmations based on different types of experiences. And again, the focus and the meaning that you made those things. And now it's all about how is it that you can process the information. So Maslow came up with this concept of levels of existence. And so if we're in this space, so giving you an idea of what this might seem like, are you in a place of survival where you're barely making it? Are you in the place of what we call stability, where things are okay, they could get worse, you like them to get better, but you don't necessarily have the path to it getting better? And then it's success. And then there's a level above success. So it's important for all of us just to be really clear. Where are we right now? What's going on inside of us? Are we in alignment with our true self? And so that's where that awareness comes in. And I think some of the most successful people in the world are those people that are absolutely aware and have the clarity of what it is that they want. Why is it that they want it? And the pathway to get there. But even the pathway is just simply secondary. One of the things that I've discovered about venture capitalists, at least in this day and age, and this is what I've understood about them, is that they're not so much worried about or focusing on the experience of people, but more so the passion. New companies, they have a lot of challenges to deal with. And when they're absolutely passionate about what it is that they want to achieve and why they want to have it, more than likely they will achieve that or find a way to achieve that. So that's all about also resources. So it's energy and resources that we need to look at. So getting back for a moment to levels of consciousness, and I'm kind of going all over the place, and I'm doing that on purpose. But it's also partly because I'm a little distracted with all the new technology that I have and a completely different process that I'm doing today. And that is an adverse situation for me. Because every single time that I've been doing this, there's always been some sort of technological glitch. And it's how is it that you choose to manage these challenges is a key part to how is it that we get to navigate life. So part of that is attachment to an outcome. It's an expectation. It's an appreciation. If you're really attached to a specific outcome and it needs to be in a certain way, and then you have a situation that is adverse, contrary to what it is that you want to have, then that might be a problem. And so being able to flow with changing environments and therefore having what's called flexibility is also going to help you navigate all this process. So getting back to levels of consciousness. So there's different levels of consciousness, and I'll simplify it by saying this. At a level 2 of consciousness, it's really all about the tribe. It's our communities, connecting with them and having the safety of the tribe. And then you have the level 3, which is of the ego. And this is more like the tribal chief, and it's all about him. But he will take care of his tribe, but it's all about him. And then you have the level 4 of thinking or consciousness. It's all about religion, it's about military, it's about discipline, it's always about following the rules. And then you have the level of 5 of materialism, or its achievement, or how big of a car can I acquire by my success. Now, these are typical entrepreneurs. And what's cool about it is that, yes, it's all about them, but in the same time, they're also helping other people with jobs and things like that. And they also elevate the quality of, our life experience simply by giving us new things that we can enjoy. I mean, if you looked at my office and all the technology that I have, it's because entrepreneurs out there developed all these different things. But then you have level 6, And that's more the green piece is socially conscious. And then finally, level 7 is flex and flow, where it's a combination of very socially consciousness or high level consciousness with financial productivity or economic productivity. So depending on where you find yourself at, adversity is going to be managed in so many different ways. And having that awareness is really key. Because if I'm at level 3 of thinking, sometimes we are at that level 3 of thinking, particularly if we're in survival. And survival is that space where we're barely making it. We don't know what's going to happen next month or next year. And so we're fighting for our own survival. But here's what the crazy thing about survival is that for some people, right, happiness just comes up when they just vertical that every morning. Whereas others, they have to have a litany of successes that qualifies success for them and happiness. And so again, it's really important to have that awareness as to what is it that you really want. Also based on your identity. Who are you? What defines you? If situations outside of you define you, then you're very much going to be dependent on everything around you. But when you decide for yourself what defines you, then you're very much safe against any kinds of adversity. But here again comes that level of consciousness, the way of thinking, your emotional state, and also having that awareness of where are you in this moment and what is it that you can do about that. So that's where resourcefulness comes in. See, a lot of people blame the world around them. They're basically victims of the environment. Bad, so everything's gone south for them. Or the weather's good and everything's gone south for them, depending on what kind of business you're in. Same thing with economy. I think in the worst economies, more millionaires that were made than in the best economies. That is doesn't make sense, but that's what happens. But again, it's that choice. So what's that inner fire inside of you as well that decides that I'm not just simply going to accept the situation that's in front of me? So are you going to accept what you settle for, or are you going to settle for what you accept? Which one is it for you? Why not settle for more? Why not demand more? Sometimes I think what happens is that people are just scared of their own success. I know I've had that problem in the past. And really what I realized was more so about, well, if I'm this successful, I'm going to have to keep it up. Am I going to be able to keep up that success? So not so much for failure, but keeping up with that success. And interesting enough, I can attribute part of that as being a doctor. And the doctors, we're not allowed to make mistakes. We can't make mistakes. But it's not always in our control. Life isn't always in our control. Things happen. Bad things happen. Storms happen. And so it's not so much how you win the game with a perfect, a poker game with a perfect hand. It's how you win the game with a lousy one. And countless of people out there who've had all sorts of crazy situations happen or disasters happen and overcome them like champions. If they can do it, so can you. So what are the hands that you've been dealt with? What are the choices that you're deciding as to, are you able to overcome these or not? Are you willing to do the work? So part of pursuing our dream in life is understanding what our own capabilities are. What are we capable of doing? And so there again, see, that's another part that we have to focus on or realize or remind ourselves of. There's a book out there called A Guide to Rational Living. if that makes any sense, right? Life's all about, head and heart and gut. But sometimes whatever's in our head is just not rational. It's just illogical. It just doesn't make any sense. But way too often we're relying on our cognitive abilities, our abilities to rationalize the logic. And I would laugh at myself in the past, because I don't do this anymore, by the way. But struggling so much with certain kinds of situations, particularly with relationships. And I would logic myself into all sorts of thinking about what something or how I should feel. When you're in a bad mood, somebody tells you, oh, you shouldn't feel bad. And then I feel bad because I shouldn't feel bad. Myself into thinking, well, I mean, other people have it worse off than I have, so why am I feeling bad? But logical thinking, as I would put it, I could logic myself into anything, but in the next moment, depending on what new information showed up, I'd logic myself out of it again. So logic isn't necessarily always going to help you. And that's where we oftentimes get stuck. And it's based on experiences or values or beliefs, the downloads that we've had from the past. So the signal for all of us to have the awareness and to recognize, you know what, I don't feel good right now. I'm stressed. Like this. And you can use share before. The focus, the meaning, the physical state, the emotion, all these different things. And use some of the tools about being flexible, appreciate versus expect. Another one that you can use is reframing. How can I change the meaning of something? One of the best questions that I enjoy when I don't like a certain situation or coaching my clients is, is this true? Making this to be really true. Are there any other possibilities? Here's my favorite. What if it wasn't true? What if you couldn't fail? Again, here's the big one. In adversity, the fear of failure. But what's the meaning that we give failure? If we identify ourselves with failure, big one is bankruptcy. I've coached clients before who were bankrupt and felt bad. I can understand that they felt bad, but they really felt bad because it was their identity. Now they felt like losers, inadequate in the world around them. One thing I've learned over the years is that some of the most successful people have been bankrupted many times. It's almost like a process or an initiation. All great entrepreneurs. How many times have they bankrupted? So failure is an opportunity. Failure is only really a failure when we don't learn. I think like Oprah said it, failure is only when you fail to try. So appreciating different aspects of all of this, can get us ready for that next step. First of all, what's true about the situation? Understanding what is really true about the situation with all the things I just shared. As you then go on to the next step, what are you going to do? What's possible? What's realistic? Oh, that's another part. Again, in my life, I have so much on my plate. It's somewhat unrealistic for me to be able to accomplish everything in the time frame that I want to accomplish it. The same thing with this platform. There's different elements to this platform that I need to have in place so that it can explode and blossom in the way that I want to. I'm working on some really cool projects. But then again, it's all about technology, it's about software, it's about other resources, and they don't always play well together. So understanding what's realistic is a key point, because as we look forward into the future and how you're going to manage adversity, you've got to be realistic. So the first part is the awareness and being realistic about yourself. Where are you right now, physically, mentally, emotionally, so that you can manage the situation. So maybe, like today, I had a lot of adversity moments. I needed to simply just take a break. I needed to step away. How often do you do that? How often do you allow yourself to recharge yourself? If it's only a couple of minutes, maybe it's several hours, maybe it's a whole day, or maybe even a week. How often do you give yourself the time to recharge? Because part of your physicality is based on the way that you manage the stress within the body. So you've got to have time to recover. That's why sleep is so important. If you don't get enough sleep, your body's not going to recover. You see, during adverse situations, stress hormones are released. And they play havoc on the body. They create inflammation. They cause all sorts of aches and pains. And unless you properly manage those, to allow your body to heal, to recover, and to give it the supplements, the water, the nutrition that it needs. So be realistic about that, number one, your body. So the other part that's really important is your brain, your emotional state, your mindset. And so by taking that break, by stepping away, by giving some peace to your entire system, you're also able to process things. One of the great questions that I like is, what is it that I don't know about a certain thing? So just taking that time, 45 minutes a week, or maybe it's every day, just taking some time, just shutting off all technology, shutting off all distractions, shutting off all connection with people, and just get a pad of paper and write down what you don't know. Because what happens then is that when you give the opportunity to connect with your unconscious mind, because all of this is really driven by our unconscious mind. If you listen to some of my past, talks, the unconscious mind is what delivers results. It's what manifests in our life. Our conscious mind is that part that decides what our goals are, but it's the unconscious mind that really gets the goals. So having that conversation with the unconscious mind, asking the right questions. Some of the great scientists, I think it was Thomas Edison, the story about him was that the way that he was connecting with his unconscious mind that came up with all these brilliant ideas, solutions, if you will, his inventions, was that he would fall asleep in his chair holding a stone, I believe, in his hand. And as he would nod off, the stone, his hand would relax, the stone would drop, a loud noise would ensue, and then he'd wake up. And then suddenly he came up with these new ideas of inventions. So giving that space, mind space, for your brain to be able to process whatever is happening. Oftentimes we rush to judgment, and also we rush to action. And I'm sure more often than not, rushing to action has caused such great adversity, or worse problems, than just simply taking the time. I learned this the other day, particularly when people expect something from you, or they want something from you, or they think that you should behave in a certain way. One of the best responses was, what, thank you very much for that information. Let me think about it for a moment. You see, somewhere we had this download that you had to behave in a certain way, respond to a person a certain way. and when it's not really in alignment with yourself. So that's why I often ask, what is it that you really want, really? We really want something for a reason because we think it's the right thing, but it's not what we really want. So taking that time out is the second step. You're giving yourself the opportunity to really evaluate and feel into the situation and become even more aware of other things that are really happening. Things that are happening inside of you, what you want, your alignment with who you are, your identity. Is this right? Thinking about what your expectations are. Are these expectations or are these rules, as I like to put them, the right ones for you in this moment or in the outside world? So taking that time just to really go through that. So once you've done that, then it's a matter of, okay, let's make some decisions here. Let's take some action. Well, I can tell you one thing. My brain is able to work in a lot of different dimensions all at the same time, however you want to understand that. I'm sure a lot of people have brilliant ways of processing information, but I don't think anybody really has the best talent unless they're writing it down. So you've got to write down. You can't hold all this information all at once and come up with the right solution. So this is what we call a decision-making process. You write down all the things and understand, where are you coming from? Is it fear-based? Is it survival-based? Is it identity-based? Is it lack of resources? Lack of energy? And writing down all the different elements of what this adverse situation really is. And be open to what other people will tell you. Oftentimes, and this is the best part about a coach, and this is what I tell people about coaching, the best part about me is I'm not you. I can see things that you can't see. And that's an essential element. So by taking the time and writing it down, and then deciding, okay, what's the probability of this situation happening? Now, granted, right, maybe the situation is already happening right in front of you, so that may not work out so well. But you can't take that moment and ask yourself, okay, how is it that I want to look back on this situation a year from now and look at to how I behaved or how I would have wanted to behave? Again, it's just giving that moment to reflect on all the different elements. So writing it down is really helpful. What's the probability of this likely to happen? What's the probability that it won't happen? But more important, what's the probability that you're going to feel a certain way? And what's the impact of that? What's the meaning of that? Again, all of it really starts off and ends up with an emotion. What's the emotion going in? What's the emotion coming out? What emotion do I want to feel? And I've always talked about, we all desire divine happiness. I think that's an essential part of realizing, what life is really all about. Because we want to be happy. So what is it that makes us happy? Or rather, what is it that stops us from being happy? Which I think is a more important aspect of getting to or going through the journey of being happy, is resolving whatever makes you unhappy. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's the things that you don't like in life. What if you could resolve them? And there's so many different ways to resolve them. So that's part of writing it down. And then potentially, asking other people, what solutions do they have? What other perspectives do they have? What's another meaning that they can have? That's a great thing about my relationship with my wife. Is she sees me in this state, if you will, that I'm frustrated, perhaps, or I'm not happy with the process or the progress that I'm making because I have a software issue. And then she comes up with a completely different perspectives. It's like, okay, I might not like the perspective, but it jolts me to realize, maybe I need to really rethink this. So part of that too is your own resources. What mindsets do you really want to have as you navigate or manage problems? Is it a mindset of, yes, I'm going to resolve this? Is it a mindset of, this is a problem and it's going to cause me all sorts of other challenges, or there'll be negative consequences? Or like I recently learned, especially in relationships, when there is a conflict, because conflicts do happen in relationships. If you're really living a lively relationship, which I hope, we all can, is that differences of opinion will show up. And so how is it that you deal with that kind of adversity? And so the mindset that I have most of the time, certainly not all the time, actually that's not entirely true. I may have it, many times I have it right away. And if I don't have it right away, I figure it out afterwards. But the mindset is, now how can I become a better person in this relationship? Or how can I become a better partner in this relationship? Based on learning from this particular conflict. So that's the same thing for you. And I think it's the word crisis in Chinese has two meanings. One of which is an opportunity, and the other one is the disaster. So what is it for you? Are these things really opportunities? As painful and frustrating and annoying as they are, can it allow you to simply expand and become better? I remember in a particular life situation, I'm not going to mention that one particularly, but there are a lot of conflicts, a lot of adverse moments. And I always, always thank them in advance, because I was allowing it myself to learn and to expand and prepare me for greater challenges later down the road. Not that I was manifesting or wanting greater challenges down the road, but I was using that experience. So the other part is, okay, why are these things happening? Why are these adverse moments actually happening? So there's perhaps two reasons, I think. One of them is we just draw them towards us. And either from a negative way or even a positive way. I think in my personal experience, I like to do a lot of things. I'm involved with a lot of things. And so I don't necessarily, have the time to properly take care of things. And so then they just build up, they pile up. So that's too much on your plate. So is that you? Are you being realistic? Some of the greatest, success people are saying, look, just have 3 things on your plate at any given time. Take care of one, add another one. But you can't handle too much. It's sometimes that fear of missing out, the FOMO part. Or maybe you're just a yes person, kind of sort of like me. I'll say yes to anything because it sounds like a lot of fun and exciting. But then you have those that are just really negative. And really what's happening, it's almost a confession of who they are. You're seeing the negative in the world around them. And really attracting that, and that's the law of attraction as well. Putting out in the universe that things shouldn't work out or won't work out. And again, that's based on fear. That's based on hurt. It's based on many of our misconceptions. So that's your work to do. If there's that dissonance inside of you, that's your work to do. So that's what we're putting out. So then the other part is, the awareness of how effective am I really? Am I really aware of what's going on? Am I just so into myself or am I really aware of the environment around me? And just like for example, just a second ago, not sure if my voice was a little muffled, but I was not aware that I put my paper on my microphone. And so these are just things that if we're smart about, if we plan properly, if we're realistic, that we can simply avoid. Because adversity is also our fault. We brought ourselves in this situation. It's our fault. You can't blame anybody else. You know, if you're driving a car and you get in a car accident, it wasn't your direct fault. It was your fault that you were in the car in the first place. And that might seem a little harsh, but the truth is that we have to appreciate what our role is in all of this. You know, I think many car accidents, for example, is because people are just simply not paying attention. So we got to pay attention to what's happening in our lives. Part of that is just proper scheduling, proper planning. You know, doing things in a way that will actually work instead of not working. So I shared a lot of different things about adversity. And as we're slowly wrapping it up, again, adversity is an opportunity for all of us to expand. And if it works against us, and if there's unfavorable outcomes for us, then again, we have a choice. It doesn't matter what the outcome is, and some of them can be absolutely horrific. But look at Nelson Mandela as an example. And when he was in prison, or once he was released from prison, you know, I think one of the questions was, you know, what was it like, or what did you feel annoyed or angry to be in prison all these years? And his response was, I was getting ready. So what are you getting ready for? You know, what is your life dream? Because ultimately, it's my belief that at a young age, pretty much before the age of 7 probably, is we develop the fundamentals of all of our dreams. Because it was at that time, whatever environment you were in, it's that thought of possibility, that you could achieve these things, whatever it was. And so it's my belief is that if you can believe, if you can think of something, then you can make it happen. And it's only you that allows the environment or external conditions to stop you. So part of that is the illogical thinking, the self-sabotaging thinking. That's really you and your misconceptions from the downloads that other people have given you. It's based on your fears. Fear of missing out, fear of being inadequate, fear of death. And so what's cool about adversity is that it definitely allows you to expand and grow. And in the end, what that's going to do is going to allow you to enjoy and experience life at a much higher level. More than likely, at some point in your life, if you do the work, if you do the personal development, the personal growth, you read the books, you listen to people, you find out what you don't know that you don't know, that once again, you can have all these internal resources within you that allows you just to smile on faith. Looking at what shows up in your life and say, great, thank you for this gift. And all those gifts in the past, all those adverse moments, were simply the opportunities to expand. So what excuses do you have? You know, I take a lot on my plate every single day. And I'm excited every single time that I have a new insight that will allow me to be even more productive, even more quickly, and be even healthier because of it. And so some things have taken a while for me to figure out. And I just learned the other day from my own coach is that less than 5% of people wake up before 7 a.m. And about 1%, less than 1%, really wake up between, say, 4 and 5 or 5:30. And it's that 1% that's super successful. And for many years, I just couldn't get up. And really because I wasn't sleeping well. And so a lot of my creative moments were at night, but I was also very creative in the morning. And my internal dialogue was telling me all the time, I gotta wake up early in the morning. So now finally, I made a choice. I go to bed early at 10 o'clock and I wake up at 4 or 5. And by noon, I've already done a full day's worth of work. By 8 p.m., it's great. I've done 16 hours worth of work. So today, I'm working on my 17th hour. And you know what? It feels absolutely great. And that's the final clue in dealing with adversity. Giving yourself enough time to manage all the things that you want to manage in life so that you can live your life on purpose. You can find the time to find other resources. You can find the time to figure things out. And so that you're not always stressed out because there's not enough time to make things happen. So it's important then to be clear as to what you want, to be really clear as to why you want it. And I think, again, oftentimes this is what really messes us up, is we lack that clarity. We're not precisely sure as to how much money we want to make and what time frame. And we associate, with the emotion before we associate with the practicality of actually achieving something. And so what happens way too often, people have these goals, they feel the emotion, and then that's it. And then they wonder why things don't happen. So clarity of outcome is key, and clarity as to what the reason is to have it. The most successful people have a very compelling target and a very compelling reason to achieve it. It's psychology. So Tony Robbins talks about all the time. 80% of success is your psychology. Knowing what you want, knowing why you want it, and then the strategies or the mechanics to get there as well. So that's the other part. Do you have the right strategies? I think I spent the last day and a half struggling with developing a 30-second clip for my new website. And all I was wanting to achieve was to help people understand, or like a tutorial so that people could set up their website, their profile, get their listing, all sorts of different things. And I just wasn't clear as to why my software wasn't working until I finally found out after many failures is that my software, my computer, wasn't compatible, with the software that I was using. It's an older version. And so when we're not clear as to the resources that we need to tap into or clear of the environment around us, then we're going to get stuck. Many times I was about to give up, but I was determined not to give up. Are you determined not to give up? What is that threshold? Is something important enough that you'll never give up? Are you a lunatic, right? You know where that comes from. Those people many years ago that wanted to go to the moon, they were called lunatics. Well, guess what? We've gone to the moon and we've gone beyond. So what's your dream? What's your compelling reason? What's the clarity, the strategies that you're going to use? But two other parts are absolutely essential in this final part because, again, this helps with dealing with adversity. is what's it going to take to get you there? Who do you have to become to be able to achieve these things, overcome the adversities? You know, entrepreneurism isn't for the meek. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of heartache. It's a lot of loss in many different ways. You know, when you're expanding and growing and becoming more in life, you know, oftentimes you lose people in life because they can't keep up with you. And those people who are staying with you because of adversity, in a sense, because they just want to associate with a negative, may not necessarily be the people you want to hang out with either. You know, misery loves company. We don't want that. So here again is finding out what can help you. What's that mindset? What's it going to take? What's the leverage? And then finding what is it going to cost? Following dreams is going to cost you something. So is that the reason for the adversity? You know, oftentimes when I work so hard, you know, my wife misses me and she gets upset. And so there's a conflict. So what are the costs? How do you mitigate those costs? What's it worthwhile to you? So finally, we're all running all sorts of unconscious programs. And until we're really aware of what those unconscious programs are, you may have recurring adversities. Maybe different in content or details. But ask yourself, is this a recurring thing? So, to summarize, emotions, physical body, the meaning, the experiences, the overall mindset. Am I going to give up? Am I going to am I passionate about something? Am I going to persevere? Being resourceful, getting help. Well, that's a big one. Getting help. We all need help in all the things that we do in life. So thank you for listening today. Today was a very adverse day for me because of all the challenges that I had just to develop some little piece of a video and software not cooperating. And then again, trying new technology. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, real success. And leading up to a great year of many different interviews with many, many different people from all different aspects of life, as I start creating this wonderful community of individuals and also different resources to help us expand ourselves and be well. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Transformation. Join Dr. Bart Rademaker live right here on Radio Star Worldwide each week or on demand 24/7.